Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this episode of the Cluster Puck Podcast, part of the MHRT network here at Center Ice. I am Nick. Unfortunately, this episode is not going to have Brit in it. A little illness going through the family around her part of the state, so she's not going to be with us this time. I apologize. So we'll keep this kind of nice and quick because obviously we got a game coming up here soon. So we'll just kind of run through the week that was, the week that will be, and what in the world is going on with the Colorado Avalanche, because we're losing all of a sudden and in a really, really bad fashion. Before we begin, though, don't forget to like and subscribe, follow the MHRT network so you can get notified when shows like the Cluster Puck Podcast go live. You can do so on the various social media platforms of your choosing. And if you want to follow us, we ask that you do so at the Cluster Puck Podcast on Facebook and at Cluster Puck Avs on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. Okay, so let's kind of run down what's going on currently. Okay, Avalanche are losing games as if 2026 alone has been their kryptonite, and it is very, very difficult to say what is happening. Okay, so that being said, let me kind of run you through the month that is January. Obviously, this next game, we're in the last day of January, so there's still one more game to be put on the record. However, the Avalanche are currently sitting at 6-6-1. More losses, technically speaking, than you have wins, which is just bizarre, considering the fact that you had only 4 losses going into the new year, and now you have an additional 6 already posted on top. It's absolutely bizarre to think effectively what's going on and kind of what the yips are that the Avalanche have. That, again, the personnel didn't change, not a lot of stuff changed. I can't help but wonder if teams are adapting better, and we'll get into that in just a second. But let's go through the games that were first and see kind of what shook down against the Maple Leafs, the Senators, and the Canadiens. So the Maple Leafs game is the one that they won. They won this game 4-1. Toronto obviously is kind of in their own personal hell right now. Just dropping games pretty quick at a pretty fast rate, I should say. They win this game 4-1. Brock Nelson, the big story of this game, has a hat trick, as well as a Jack Drury goal, his 8th of the season at the time. Overall, it was great, right? Like, other than the Max Domi goal, very, 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 very late in the game with probably a minute or so left, which kind of bummed me out that there was no shutout there from Mackenzie Blackwood, but it is what it is. The game was out of hand at that point. They played a very good, solid style. Now, the game itself was still pretty hard-hitting. It was still pretty close as far as like the physicality was concerned. But the Avs rose to the occasion, I think, playing a very, very smart game of hockey. And obviously keeping the Maple Leafs to 1 goal, and in fact keeping their big guys off the score sheet, which was incredible. The hard thing about this game, obviously, is that with Toronto and where they're currently sitting, this one was an expected win, and you got it. But it didn't tell an entire story. It still felt incomplete to a sense. I don't quite know where to put my finger on it when I say incomplete, unfortunately. But it just felt like there was something still missing. Like, they played physical. They played to the level of Toronto's physicality. They matched them blow for blow. There was just something missing, like a spark from the offense or something to that extent, because the game, like I said, they played a whole game. They played a great game, mistake-free for the most part, but there was just something off. And that something ended up being what carried over into the ensuing 2 games. So the next game that happened, the Avalanche lose this game 5-2 against the Ottawa Senators in Ottawa. And the game itself was just the worst potential, I guess, game of catch-up that you can have. And that happens often, right? Where you'll be kind of vying, kind of going goal for goal, but then they get that late one, so to speak. Excuse me. They get that late one, or you are down 2 and you catch up, but then they get the empty netter and then another empty netter, which in this case is exactly what happened. Parker Kelly scoring a goal, Val Nichushkin scoring a goal, that's all great. But the third period collapse was just the thing that ultimately became our downfall when Claude Giroux got that goal. Granted, Nichushkin scored pretty quickly after, but from that point, it was just a game of catch-up, which the Avs had not been very good with as of late, as of this month, I should say, with doing so. So the defense, I think that was kind of the big if, because the goaltending was fine through the first half of the game. I'll say, obviously, the Nick Cousins goal was kind of a more skill based than it was against our goaltending, but you give it to him. The goaltending was okay. The offense was able to generate stuff, but that's a big empty word at this point. It was just stuff. It wasn't like something productive. It wasn't anything like massive or big. It was just stuff. And that's the hard part about this, right? And then the defense just continued to poke or I guess have holes shown where we were leaking and where we were lacking. The difficult part too is that obviously Ottawa, we know, has a talented team, but our defense, especially with Sam Malinsky signing that extension, I believe it was a 4x4, 3x4, somewhere around that area. I don't remember exactly. I apologize. Especially with the defense as rock solid as it had been, not allowing a lot of goals. The offense was firing on all cylinders, and suddenly it's kind of flip-flopped where the defense just feels like it's just Swiss cheese. Goaltending hasn't bailed you out. Offenses, it might be producing, depends on the day. But the defense here was definitely the sad news of the game. But you lose 5-2. Again, these things were bound to happen, so you'd think obviously next game you'd be right back on the trail, right back onto the winning ways. Well, unfortunately, you lose even worse with a final score of 3-7. Good old-fashioned football score. Nick Suzuki with 2 goals for the Habs. Noah Dobson also on the board. Jack Evans, Kirby Dach, Carrier, Slavkovsky, like they were all on the board. None of which were empty netters, by the way. The game could have gone back to the Avs' way about beginning-ish of the third period when Ross Colton scored the third goal to go down 3-5. That one felt like there was a bit more of a fight. But again, at one point it was 5-1, right? Like it just felt like the game itself was getting put away, and it was put away pretty quick. Just terrible goaltending, terrible defense, terrible giveaways, bad penalties, like you name it. It just went bad to worse for the Avs. And the hard part about this too is, again, it's Montreal. There's always that little homecoming for Lehkonen, or that physicality that Montreal brings. They are a very, very physical team that the Avs just were not ready for, and Montreal just skated circles around them. There's really no two ways about it, unfortunately. So hard pill to swallow this one, considering Montreal literally did kind of what Nashville had done and put up a touchdown on you, which, again, I'm trying to convince myself that these things are going to happen. Big losses are supposed to happen with these teams. And right now, that's kind of where the Avalanche sit, I should say, is they're in this downswing of just bad momentum, bad breaks going their way, bad puck luck. I mean, you kind of name it, it's going all against the Avalanche, which I hate to say that, the shoe was going to fall. I shouldn't have said that a few weeks ago, because now the shoe has fallen and smacked us right in the face. But it's expected that obviously losses and bad, stretches throughout the season are going to happen. Like that's expected. But for them to be in this bad of a fashion, where you're not losing by 1 or 2 goals, you are getting absolutely smoked by 3, 4 goals. That's the issue that I'm having. So you can't even lose in a gentlemanly way, I guess, is my issue. And the problem is, again, power play, I guess let me preface what I think the Avs are struggling with in order to either lose properly and gentlemanly or win these games is power play. Or I should say special teams in general, because if you noticed, Nick Suzuki, one of his 2 goals in that Montreal game was a shorthanded goal. And I think the Avs are first, if not top 3 in shorthanded goals, given, which is terrible considering the firepower they have, the fact that they have all this ability on the power play, they get them often, but to give up shorthanded goals at the clip that they're giving them, by the way, is not fun whatsoever. So that to me is one of the big downfalls currently that the Avalanche are facing. I don't understand why, considering the firepower, considering the man, considering the team, the unit, the everything, by all intents and purposes, you should be scoring at basically 100% whenever you're on the power play, but you are not. You're bottom of the league, and you're giving up these shorthanded goals to boot. That to me is the frustrating part, where it's like, that's a swing, right? That is one goal that you could have had, and if it's shorthanded goals, that you have given to the other team because of these simple rookie mistakes, if you ask me. And it just can't happen, especially if you're Cale Makar, if you're Brett Burns, if you're Devon Taves. Again, I understand injuries are a thing, and the Olympic break's coming up, and people are just trying to hold out for another few games longer. But at the same time, all these games should matter to you. It doesn't matter that currently, everything being said, you are still first in the league. You still have a 7-point cushion over Tampa, who's the next highest team. But that shouldn't mean that you can just coast, right? Like I said, Tampa's not far behind you. Tampa is right back to being good again. Okay. That's my worry is as teams are figuring themselves out, and as the Avs are kind of in this rut, that there goes that record, which again, I'm not totally caring for, but at the same time, it's just a guarantee that you have that highest seed in the Western Conference, or let alone in the Central Division. It's just win games. That's the simple goal. Just win the games and you'll be fine. There shouldn't be any worry about, oh, what's going to happen? We need X, Y, and Z to fall in our favor in order to get the first seed. If you're just winning games, there's nothing to worry about. Okay. So that's kind of my big thing is power plays are that key feature in order to do that. And I don't know what Dave Hackstall's, what he's got going on in his playbook, but whatever it is, it just is not working, which is the frustrating part. And I've said this, I swear, week in and week out. So apologize to you guys if I sound like a broken record player. It's you have one of the best offenses in the league, and you cannot score on the power play when you're a man up. That to me just is it's ludicrous. It's crazy. Like I don't understand how something like that can possibly happen, where they are scoring at such a low clip that I think it only benefits them, I think, around 18% of the time. Or they give it's like a more, what was the actual statistic? I think it was like an 18% chance increase that they'll score, which, considering everyone else is like over 25, closer to 33, somewhere around that, like that's a big jump. It might as well be no different for the Avs. And that's the frustrating part, I think, is because you should be, by all intents and purposes, matching what an Edmonton does, or what a Tampa does, or what a Carolina does, or whatever. But you just aren't. We just aren't. So that's one of them. The other thing I'm having issue with, again, and I said that I will continue to say this, face-offs. So many times I have seen opposing teams, and this week was no different, scoring goals because they won a face-off, and on that same possession would score a goal. Okay, whether the face-off was down on our side of the ice, close to our net, Or on the opposite side, where it's like, if we just won that, we would have had possession and a better scoring ability. Losing those possessions, and it, to me, equates to an opposing team's goal. That, to me, I think is one of the toughest pills to swallow, because to me, like I've said before, for those of you who don't know, to me, a face-off loss is no different than a turnover. It might as well be like a fumble in football to me. Like it's and you're not winning the battle there. You're less than 50%, I swear, every single time. And that's terrible, right? Another thing I've noticed, at least this last week and even in this month, I really should say, is that these elite players like your Cale Makars, like your Nathan McKinnons, they're making such ridiculous mistakes. Like it is just uncanny how these are your top players, top defensemen, top forward in the league, and they're doing these boneheaded and questionable like things. Like I think about the Anaheim game a couple weeks ago, where Nathan McKinnon had the game chance on his stick, and instead of trying to slide through defensemen to go into the more open ice toward the middle of the ice, he tries to wrap around toward the boards, where you're like, there's no space. You're going to get bodied. You're going to get closed off, and they're going to take the puck. Anaheim did, and take it away, a scoring chance away from you. And that's exactly what happened. Cale Makar, just bad passes leading to shorthanded goals, turnovers. Um, Not very good on the power play as of late. Like, not looking for he's looking for that perfect shot, not looking for just a shot for a potential redirect from Lehkonen or Nichushkin or who have you. But really, there's a whole bunch of players that I think are making these mistakes. Now, that being said, there are some bright moments out of all this. Parker Kelly is doing absolutely wonderful. Brock Nelson, I cannot sing his praises enough. But like Natchez has gone cold, McKinnon's gone cold, Makar's gone cold. Just all these little things where you can't believe what's going on, where your depth is, your second line below is kind of the ones that are scoring. That's another issue. Okay. The good news, like I said, is that the depth is now scoring, but it's not nearly enough to come back on these deficits and these holes that you're digging yourself into. You need all the players to be participating. If that means Natchez gets a typical goal, McKinnon gets a typical goal, Lehkonen gets a typical goal, whatever it is, then it needs to happen. Okay. So I don't know how to air the grievances any other way other than, yeah, we're losing now. And it's time to kind of get that ship corrected, because there are teams that are now nipping at the heels. Now, if it's for first place overall in the league, that's one thing. If it's for first in the West, that's another thing. If it's first in the division, that's where my worry is, because I would really like to ride as much home ice advantage during these playoffs as possible. And if I go back to those standings again, like I said, Tampa's nipping at your heels. Go to the league. Minnesota is also sitting 7 points behind you. They weren't a little while ago, but they're still within that striking distance if things continue to fall off the rails like they're minimally doing so far in this month of January. So that being said, there are fixes, I think, that you can do. The first one, obviously, score on the power play, taking advantage of those chances. I know, again, I sound like a broken record player, but that's more goals in your pocket. Another one is just overall possession of the game, the puck, the momentum, controlling that game, controlling how the rhythm is, controlling the pacing. Everything to that extent. If you are able to control the game, you could potentially control the outcome. It all is going to depend on your offensive ability to score, which that's the third thing, is getting these teams, this offense, to get back on track, right? So that's that's kind of my big worry right now, is that the Avs are just kind of coasting until the Olympic break, which again, I'm not necessarily thrilled with, other than, you're keeping your players healthy. But still, overall, it's just one of those, I can't believe you're going to give up these losses where it could be points in your pocket that, if you're not careful, could spell disaster toward the end of the season. So anyway, I just wanted to air out the dirty laundry there. Um, let's talk upcoming games. Obviously, like I said, I'm going to keep this episode shorter, so you guys can go on to watch this next game. Speaking of next game, the opponent for the next two games, believe it or not, is Detroit. First one at Detroit here, which you're going to watch here in just a little bit. 11 a.m. Mountain Time puck drop on ABC, so nationally televised. There, it sounds like the media people are really trying to ham this up as like the rematch of, the brawl that happened several years ago. That I think now that rivalry has all since but dissipated, but that's just me. Um, 11 a.m. Like I said, Mountain Time puck drop in Detroit. Detroit is now a formidable foe. Okay, they're sitting second in the Eastern Conference Atlantic Division. Well, I think it actually third in the Eastern Conference, but they are now a team that should not be trifled with. 32-17-6 record. They're scoring at such an amazing clip, I guess is one way to put it, that they're potent. Lucas Raymond, Alex DeBrincat, they are kind of spearheading this, spearheading this with Dylan Larkin in tow. And it's kind of fun to see Detroit being good again. Now, the only problem is you're playing them twice in a row. Okay. So my key to the game for both of these games, although let me just tell you the second one in just a second. So Saturday, as in today, Mountain Time, puck drop 11 o'clock. And then Monday, February 2nd, 7 p.m. Mountain Time. That'll be back in Ball Arena. But these two games, like I said, same key. And that is going to be the points are going to matter here. Okay. Detroit's chasing you. They're chasing Tampa. They're chasing Carolina as well, but mostly Tampa because that's division. Their division leader, I should say. So they have 4 points that they could pocket right there, back to back. Okay. Or as far as playing you, back to back. You have points that you could be pocketing as well. Now, this is again another important matchup in that sense that, yes, this isn't necessarily your 4-point swing like it is per game in your division, but this is a 4-point swing in the set of two games that you're playing the same team twice. Okay. So whatever you figure out in game one, you have to keep in game two. Whatever you struggled with in game one, you have to reapply or fix in game two. So it's for me all about the points. I'm not necessarily caring about how they're going to win, though I do have, obviously, like I said, power play, face-offs, scrums against the board, you name it. Those are the obvious ones. Okay. And like I said, Detroit just plays a wholesale game where they have a great just team chemistry, and the overall compete with this team is really, really good. And if the Avs are not able to keep up with that, if they're not able to keep the momentum, take control of the game, kill momentum, if it's Detroit that has it, they're going to find themselves losing both of those games. And I hate saying that because I would want to be the positive. Oh, these are very winnable. They're going to be tough, these particular games, because it's that rivalry renewed, as the media is trying to put it. But also it's going to be hard hitting. It's going to be a classic hockey, I think, where it's your checks, it's your heart, you're kind of elbowing and getting around for position, jockeying for puck possession, all that kind of stuff. If the offense is kicking, if the goaltending is solid, and if the defense shows up, then yeah, you should be fine by all facets, by all statistics, and on paper, yeah, you should be fine. But the big thing for me, it's just winning the two games. Start with that. Again, ground zero. You just have to win the game first and foremost. Okay. So that's my key to the game for the two Detroit games. Like I said, this one you'll be watching here in just a moment. The other one, Monday, February 2nd, 7 p.m. Mountain Time puck drop. Now, the last game we're going to talk about, because then it becomes Olympics after that, February 4th, 7 p.m. Mountain Time at home. You play the San Jose Sharks. And I'm really going to try not to be giddy about it. this year. Macklin Celebrini is playing just phenomenal. Will Smith, William Eklund, you name it, their team is so much fun, and they play like they have nothing left to lose. If I go to the standings at this current point in time, in the West, they're out of the wild card spot, but they're right in, I mean, they're within striking distance of not only third in the Pacific, but a potential wild card if there's worst case. So they're right there in the mix, right? 27, 21, and 4. No one thought they'd be here at this time. Everyone was assuming bottom of the barrel, kind of honestly where Vancouver is. But they're not. They're winning games. They have this team chemistry, and that's the choking point, right? They are playing just young and fast and fun, like they have nothing to lose, and that's going to be my key to the game with San Jose is figuring out a way to stop that, because there is a lot where you can deflate that fun, basically, right? You can take away that how it's, I don't even know how to say it, que sera, sera mentality of they're just going to go out, have fun, play, score, do it, and have fun doing it. And now with a little bit of competition heat underneath that, because they're in that spot to be buyers potentially at the trade deadline here in a month or so, which is crazy to think, because like I said, nobody had San Jose in this position, and they're having a great time. Their team chemistry rocks. Goaltending is solid enough. Nedeljkovic got in a fight. Like, everything's going San Jose's direction, and they're only going to get better as the years go by. So it's about taking away that team chemistry with your own chemistry. The Avs had plenty of that up until the new year, right? Team chemistry was great, scoring at whatever clip they wanted, only lost 2-3 games, whatever it is. They had that, and it's gone away, right? They need to muster that back, channel their own inner San Jose if they will. But whatever it is, combat it with your team chemistry, because as soon as that happens, you're scoring at a much higher clip than San Jose can keep up with. You're getting it past their goaltenders to a point where they're going to need to pull them. You kind of need to have that young at heart mentality where you're just full of piss and vinegar, going out and scoring, going out and doing what the Colorado Avalanche are meant to do. So that's my key to the game, is to fight chemistry with chemistry. You're able to do that, I think you're able to win the game, because again, on paper, they are, by all measures, an inferior opponent, but that does not mean that randomly they can suddenly be like, oh yeah, and another thing, and go and beat you at your own place, might I add. San Jose has had this miraculous thing with playing away games as of late, and that's something to also keep in mind. So those are the 3 games I wanted to bring to your attention this week. Obviously before Olympics begin and things to that extent, which obviously we'll still be doing our weekly episodes through the Olympics. We'll be talking about Team USA, Team Canada, and then obviously the players from the Avalanche that are on their respective countries' teams. We'll bring that up as well. But you will also see that we will have coverage through the Olympics. We'll talk about those as well before going back to the regular season at the end of February. Okay. So that's going to bring me to my last little bit, is the hockey hit of the week. So this one was, excuse me, this one was extremely tough, because the week was going to start okay, and then it just didn't. So my current song that I think I'll give this one to for this week is Face Down by the Red Jumpsuit Apparatus. Mostly because that's kind of where the Avs are. They have fallen face down into this rut. And I just don't understand how they can feel like a hockey team when they're being pushed around and falling to the ground. You know what I mean? So that's my hockey hit of the week, is Face Down by the Red Jumpsuit Apparatus. Unfortunately, Brit does not have one to present this week. But we'll make sure to get her on the next episode. So again, it's all about jumping back to square one, is winning the game however you can. Okay. That's usually the first thing that you can do to get out of these ruts, get out of this bad swing, and get back on the uptick, is just finding a way to win the game first and foremost. solid hockey, solid mechanics, basics, all that kind of stuff. And then you should be in a better spot toward the end of these games to at least be in it, if not winning. And by then, you should remember exactly how the Avalanche win games and go back to that same type of style of play. Okay. So that's going to be it for this episode. Like I said, we kept it short for you guys on purpose, just to make sure you guys have enough time to grab whatever breakfast you have, if you're Pacific or Mountain Time, or lunch, if you're Central or Eastern Time, and enjoy the Avalanche as they take on the Detroit Red Wings in Detroit. So fingers crossed that we have a good game, a good series of games before the Olympic break, because that 6 points could be huge, because you're not going to be playing team, NHL until the end of February when the Olympics are done. So a lot riding on this. A lot of momentum is going to be needed. They're going to have to remember that these points are massive, these last 3 games before the Olympics in Italy come. So fingers crossed. Here's hoping that they regain that Avalanche magic that they had at the beginning of the season up until the new year. And everything, hopefully, rights the wrongs, steers the ship back on course. So thank you everyone for joining me on this episode of the Cluster Puck Podcast, part of the MHRT Network. Again, if you like what you saw, don't forget to like and subscribe, follow the MHRT Network so you can get notified when shows like the Cluster Puck Podcast go live. You can do so on the various social media platforms of your choosing. And if you want to follow us, we ask that you do so at the Cluster Puck Podcast on Facebook and at Cluster Puck Avs on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. With that being said, let's see if we can get 6 points, 3 wins, however we can take them, we'll take them, and then we'll jump into the Olympics for 2026. With that being said, enjoy the game, enjoy your weekend, enjoy the Olympics, and as always, go Avs go.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Tempo's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast racking up the flight miles. So high, I might never come down, so what, this is my lifestyle.